Welcome to Cloud and Clear. I'm Miles Ward, CTO at SADA, and this is our podcast, webcast, video recording attack on what's happening in technology, where cloud is going, what companies are making a difference in that space, and what customers are extracting in terms of value. I am super excited to introduce Dor Laor, who is the CEO at Scylladb. Dor, say hi to everybody.
Hi, Miles. Hi, everybody. Good to be here.
Thanks, Dor. So we are cheating. This is a friendly episode. I've known Dor for a super long time, so really excited for everybody to hear us talk through kind of what the state of affairs are. Dor, give us the origin story. Where does Scylla come from? How did we get here?
We started the company in 2013, and actually it wasn't around databases. We didn't know much about databases, and when we figure out which kind of idea we're going to have for a startup, we thought about one of the ideas was a database, specifically designed database. But back then we thought, probably everybody has done it already. So we passed on, and we decided to create an operating system for virtualization from scratch with our own kernel, because we did a KVM hypervisor before, and we saw everybody just run one app per OS. So we thought, let's create a new OS. But Docker came along and forced us to pivot. And when we ran a bunch of databases on our OS that still exists today. It's open source one. And we figured that Cassandra, one of the databases, is not as fast as it should be. It's kind of a super nice scale out architecture, but in terms of efficiency, it wasn't efficient at all. It was written in Java. Java is a nice language for management apps, but not for a high-end, high-speed, super fast performance. So we figured, let's rewrite this from scratch, take the OS knowledge we've got, and just do it.
For everybody in the audience, you should internalize the scope of what you're saying. Just like, we think this is a good app. We should just build a copy of it. So I am super impressed by the technical depth on this team. And Dor went over it relatively quickly, but this is also the technical group that designed the KVM hypervisor, which among other places, is in use in production at Google Cloud. It powers every GCE instance and a huge number of the internal services. So thank you, Dor, not only for what you're doing at Scylla, but for the incredible contribution to Google Cloud writ large. When you looked at Cassandra as a database API to interpret, how does this help us?
So thanks, by the way, for you, Miles, for hosting me. And actually, we met due to the KVM hypervisor, long ago, I think.
Yeah,
probably around.
ancient.
Yeah. And it's indeed a pretty stupid effort undertaking to create a new database. We didn't know how complicated it will going to be. We thought, we wrote a hypervisor. How much can a database be more complex? And actually, it's more complex. It's more complicated than a hypervisor even. So now in terms of performance, but back then when we made a decision to pivot and we chose Cassandra, actually it was GCP who published a benchmark of Cassandra running 330 virtual machines, small ones, to combinedly run 1 million ops, Cassandra query language ops. 330 machines to run 1 million operations per second. Now, when we were at Red Hat and we did the KVM hypervisor, we broke the world record of doing file system I/O using a single virtual machine, and we did 1.6 million operations per second with a single virtual machine.
Now, so that's faster.
Yeah, and it's an unfair comparison because it's only file system I/O, not replicated, and there's a million database operation with three time replication, but really 1 to 330, something is not right. So ahead of time, we were sure that we're going to 10x the Cassandra performance, and so we have eventually.
That's magic. So I've seen this in practice with SADA customers where they're eager to get at high performance, highly efficient, scalable, structural interaction with storage. And these building blocks aren't they aren't the sort of optional part, right? It's not like let's figure out which front end framework to use, or like maybe we'll pick this color for the UI or that color for the UI. This is kind of the beating heart in the middle of the business. And Scylla runs not only as an open source project but also a managed service. Can you talk about the relationship between those two and how Scylla manages the managed product?
Sure. So from the very beginning, we're open source fans. We believe in open source. We like open source. It's fun. I actually also, my management style is like took a lot of processes and values from open source, and I implement them over marketing and sales. Sometimes they may not like it, but I think that's the right way. So we have open source offering. We have an enterprise version based on it, similar to the Red Hat offering. And also, a couple of years ago, we saw all of the need to have a managed service, a database as a service. And this is basically where the entire market is going, both in databases and also beyond. So we have a managed Scylladb enterprise that we have with a lot of code around it to keep all of the management aspects of it. When a machine fails, when a data center fails, you'd like to automate all of the aspects of it so you wouldn't need to wake up at night. And also, like, not everybody run backup, for example. And for the subset of people who run backup, some of them rely that the restore will work one day. But actually, the right thing is to make sure that the backup, the restore of the backup actually work before a disaster.
Right.
So
yeah, backups are worthless. It's restores that are so nice, right? And it is a place where we see a lot. That's why I think as a service model is so valuable to so many customers. Is it aligns incentives properly. If you can make an investment in operational efficiency that pays dividends over all of your customers, of course you're incentivized to do that work, and it benefits every customer. So you end up in this spot where you've got the right reasons to be making a better and better product over time, and a financial model, a structural model that gets everybody lined up. Thinking of customers, right? We talked a little about Discord running on top of us. That's a super fascinating use case for me. There's a quote from them. Mark Smith is Discord's director of infrastructure. They're running at over 150 million monthly active users. So a really scaled system for communicating while you're playing games in open source projects. I use it all the time with some of our companies that want to collaborate in that way. His quote is, "We trust Scylladb's speed and reliability to help with some of our most business critical use cases, including all of our core product experience, our anti-abuse systems, and more." Talk to me about that responsibility, right? You're building a product that powers other products. SADA is a company that helps companies build their products. How do you think about that? You said in terms of your management style, what are you doing at Scylla to make sure that it can keep those kinds of promises?
So that's definitely not a simple undertaking, and
Sure.
also it takes a while to gain the trust of customers. So Discord, for example, they started with a really small scale, even tiny scale, when they wanted to test us, and they were ready to switch from Cassandra to Scylla. So initially they just tested us for some time, and all customers go through a POC and also test disaster cases, not just performance. Performance is just one aspect, like durability and reliability and support is crucial. And over time, when they started to shift all of their services, it also takes distributed database is quite complicated, and even if the API is identical, it takes time to move, and they've moved pretty much everything to Scylladb. So, and we're super proud, and we work every day hard to satisfy all of their needs, from big issues to small minority issues that may just be on their way. So we're trying to satisfy our customers, and support is kind of many times it's hard to figure out what's the boundary between a database problem to an infrastructure problem to a client problem. There's tons of them. and we're trying not to kind of set the boundary, and we're trying to make the customer happy and solve the actual problem and to try to pinpoint it. And we've seen so many cases. There was even one time where there was an on-prem customer, and that customer reported that a single node runs suddenly at 50% capacity, just purely 50% and only one node. Like go debug that, and you do not have access to it. So eventually it turned out I was familiar with such an issue in my past, and I asked them, hey, go check if the second power supply is still on. And turns out that just there was one power failure for one of the power of the server, and that turned out to be the issue. But it can be driver issues in the operating system, driver issue on, like, recently we found out a Python bug that was big in the driver side, and it's not provided by us, but overall it needs to work end to end.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. I think I remember when the term full stack engineer made its way into the market of ideas and how we talk about these roles. And every time I met one that said they were full stack, I was like, oh no, you don't mean full stack. You don't know power supplies. You don't know what's going on inside of memory registers. And, there's too much to know. The scale of context that's required to really make all of this technology do what it's supposed to do is enormously broad. SADA knows that all day long. We've got people that ask us for support for every different Google product, all the ISVs that sit around them, all of the surrounding technologies they layer on top of that. It really is, it's an incredible thing to watch in practice as businesses try to make value out of this crazy sets of zeros and ones that they throw around. So talk to me about Scylladb open source 5.0 just came out, right? You've got a new release. What are the changes and improvements that are present in this most recent version of Scylla?
So Scylla 5, or Scylla V as we call it, is a fantastic release. Like everybody, it's the best release ever. Like it's funny that everybody, it's even mentioned, like, what are you going to do? Like release an older version or a new version that is worse than the old one? So obviously it's a better release, but it's really exciting because in our past, the first release was just to make it work and fast, and then make it work, but close the parity gap with the API, and then come up with new features. And Scylla 5 is really a breakthrough. The major change, there are a couple of major changes. One of the most significant changes is the consistency guarantee. Like Cassandra and Scylla and also Dynamodb are databases that provide eventual consistency. So, and it's something funky with databases, like a non-consistent database. The problem is that, like with the CAP theory, you need to make some trade-offs between consistency, availability, and partition tolerance. And we took on board a design that prefers partition tolerance and availability over consistency. And it's possible to be consistent, but it may not be immediate. But it makes the developer life more complicated. The developer uses our software on the app side. And also database maintenance can also become a little bit more cumbersome. And we wanted to solve that. So we adopted the new distributed transaction consistency protocol called Raft. And we implemented it. And the first main feature assisted by Raft is schema agreements. So previously you can only change one schema at a time and not to have two parallel schema changes that may conflict with each other. Or if there is a topology break in the middle, and now databases and now schema changes are consistent and transactional. So this problem is solved. And the next problem that we're now tackling, this is part of Scylla V, which means that all of the subsequent versions of minor versions of 5.x will continue to evolve. So it's not just one release and that's it. It's a long development cycle, and topology changes is coming, and it's actually working on the master branch, and it will allow us to add multiple nodes at once and become more elastic. Today, you can only add one node at a time, and sometimes you may want to double the cluster size ahead of time at once and not just add one node at a time. So that's another major improvement. And the last major improvement in the series is to make the data, the user data, immediate consistent, and then we'll basically have a single key transactions without a performance penalty, and that's huge.
Yeah, that is huge. Consistency is, I was in a whole bunch of meetings with Eric Brewer, and I will tell you, at Google, it is a constant background smack talk dialogue to give him mess about cap and why he should just have sorted that out. You've been working at Google for long enough, like fix that stuff. It's very, very frustrating for most of the developers. And he's the one who broke down for me, like, it's not really that you get to pick any one of the two. It's that you're going to have partitions. That's going to happen, and you just have to figure out which way you're going to fail. So it's outstanding that you're thinking hard on behalf of customers and building features into the product, not only, and I think critically for a lot of your competitors, not only in the commercial version, but also in the open source version that enable companies of all different sizes and shapes and starting places to be able to benefit from the incredible engineering there. So thank you for that. When you're thinking about what comes next, right? You're definitely going to do more releases. And I heard you mention one thing that I want our audience to know as well. We talked a lot about Cassandra, but you mentioned the compatibility with Dynamodb. That's been really, really critical for our use cases. We have a lot of customers that are moving from AWS to GCP and consider Dynamo the kind of locked in feature. They're stuck. There's no way they could leave AWS. And we wave our hands around and go, no, you're missing it. Scylladb makes that really easy. Can you talk about the Dynamodb, the alternator feature?
Sure, and it's a pleasure to work with the SADA team and customers and migrate them and enable them to move out of the AWS locking and open up other options for them. So we like to not to invent the wheel and to reuse good APIs. And but basically, Cassandra was modeled after Dynamodb. We were modeled after Cassandra. So 1 plus 1 equals 3, and it's all the same family. So adding an additional API was relatively not a big effort because it's the same wide column type of database family. It's not a completely different type of database. So it was relatively makes sense, and we know that there is plenty of workloads running on AWS. We wanted to free them to use open source. Like usually, what happens with AWS and startups and open source is that AWS eats their cake and monetize open source, and we wanted to do the opposite, and we took that a closed source component, and it's open source today, so everybody can run Dynamodb open source, or of course enterprise or as a service, but you can just run it locally, get fantastic performance, use it for dev and test for free, or just run it in production in a variety of ways. And that's free to you, and we're 95 compatible with Cassandra. We got to 100% compatibility. With Dynamo, we're around 95% of the compatibility, and we'll close the gap completely. Those 5% normally isn't really needed, so you can just go and run this, and latency will be better, no lock-in, and we have a couple of more unique features also.
Yeah, I want people to hear this from me. I've spent a lot of time working across a lot of different enterprise and commercial and open source and hacked together terrible software. And every company at some point has some statement about compatibility. My thing works together with this other thing over there, right? So like I have a close relationship. I really respect the hard work done by the folks in Google Cloud Storage. GCS is a great product. They say they have S3 compatibility. They are wrong. they have S3 compatibility, kind of sort of, right? And if you have a legacy kind of a user-facing app that talks to the S3 APIs, it's probably going to work fine. But if you're high performance and you're using SIG v4 and you're super lean, and you can't just talk S3 to GCS and have it work totally reliably. Dor and the team at Scylladb, they take this compatibility word very seriously. And I remember the early demonstrations of the interoperability with Cassandra, where you'd be able to replace a node in a Cassandra ring with a Scylla node, and all of the kind of real wire protocol level interop that makes it so that these kinds of products can do the kind of drop-in replacement, wire level replacement. That makes a huge difference for the operators and the engineers at the end stage who are trying to get value out of these things. They don't want to fight through compatibility issues or rewrite a bunch of their stuff just to be able to take advantage of new tech. They want to build what's next. So I was always super impressed, and it's a place where we've been really confident in our interactions with Scylla. So thank you for that. I think it's like an undersung part. It's like, it's not a feature you get to stick at the front of the release. Like, we're actually compatible instead of like sort of kind of, and then, but really we're good at performance, or really we're good at availability, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We have one of our customers, GE Medical, not just a small startup, and also not just a product, a life support type of product. We used to run on AWS. They had to run and place machines in a hospital, so on-prem. And they loved AWS, actually, but they had to run it on-prem. So they partnered with us, and they're running the alternator inside of hospitals with the same code without any code modification. And we even partnered with AWS because they have their own hardware that they sell, the Outpost, and they cannot run Dynamodb there. So we help AWS to run Dynamodb, or our version of Dynamodb, within the Outpost product, and obviously to run it within GCP today.
Yeah, we have exactly the same situation. So I spent, I don't know how long, working on Anthos, and we have a lot of our customers that use Anthos, and we approached the Google engineering teams to say, look, like, it's great to be able to run Kubernetes. I super need stateful storage. I need some kind of way of keeping applications consistent, especially when I have a remote location and a cloud location, or multiple cloud locations. So the demonstration that we built together for your last conference, which was spectacular, has the same stateful application running on AWS and Azure and GCP, and a computer under my desk, and one that's at the SADA headquarters office, and it round robins between those and is synchronizing between those, keeps all of those up to date without needing some kind of proprietary piece that makes you stuck, right? You can do that in any way you want. That's a huge value proposition. And I keep looking for other companies to do that demo, because I think that's what, when I go and talk to big businesses, they really want the ability to do. They want the ability to run wherever they want, whenever they want, in the way that they want, whether it's managed or unmanaged, whether it's something that they deal with the supply for infrastructure or somebody else deals with it. They don't care. They want their optionality. It's what preserves their ability to negotiate and to meet their customers where their customers are. So it's been really exciting to see you continue to support that. So I appreciate all that hard work. In that collaboration, you chose to work together with SADA. We've been working on a bunch of different customer projects. What's that been like? How is this relationship going? Is it beneficial for you? Useful?
It's definitely useful, and I can't recommend it more, because first, simply it adds another partner for us when we need support, and at the end of the day, large customers will need support. Then there's another partner that can help us. It's both GCP that are still involved, and also SADA. So we double the amount of help we can, and with the same price. So there's only an upside. What can I tell? And also it's fun, and also SADA as a partner help us to go to market with customers to bring value to them. So it's a win-win situation.
Yeah, no, I've had a lot of fun with it. I think it's the alliance program that we built is set up in the way that I want to work, right? I want to partner with companies and make them more successful. And it turns out some of the companies that we partner with make software. I know a great way to make software companies successful. It's to get their software. into the hands of great customers. So I've really been excited about the opportunity to collaborate in that way. And from what I've seen so far, your teams have been super responsive and timely. So I appreciate the focus there. There is, as you know, just an unlimited amount of opportunity. The market in cloud seems big, right? There are Super Bowl ads for cloud technology, right? Like we're totally there, and it hasn't even remotely started, right? We're at 200 and something billion out of a $5 trillion market. So I'm excited for the next years to come. Any last next events coming from Scylla or places that you want to have our audience check out? I think there's a lot for them to learn about the product, but any guidance you can give them on what to take a look at next?
So first, there's the Scylla 5 page. Go to the website. It's really easy to locate and learn what is it's in there. It's not just the rough consistency. There is a new iOS scheduler that provides more promises and more features to come, and a bunch of user testimonials and plenty of other things. But beyond that, we have we do a couple of virtual free conferences. We have a City University quarterly event for people who want to get educated about Scylla for free. There is a Scylla Summit, the yearly event. And there's also a P99 conference coming. P99, we always wanted to provide value beyond what we do with Scylla specifically. So we have, for example, the CSAR engine at the heart of Scylla, which has a very permissive license, and other companies build storage and streaming solutions with it. So we created the P99 conference virtual summit, which is coming up in October, and it's possible to register to it now, and there's plenty of speakers over there that speak about high-end solutions, performance, latency. It's a conference for developers by developers, so it's kind of a not for managers. It's not about products. We forbid having a product pitches. It's only about technology, and you can find technologies like Rust and kernels and databases, also competing databases, and a bunch of other interesting stuff. So p99conf.io, that's the registration page.
Yeah, P99 is awesome. The content there, even just last year, was super, super rich. So I'll echo that recommendation from Dor. And yes, you're going to see future demos from SADA. Hopefully we can get what I'm working on right now done in time for P99, but maybe it'll be one after that. I don't know. Code. I'm a lot slower developer than my friend Dor. So I hope everybody had a great time with this show. I was really excited about the partnership and looking forward to helping everybody with this great tech. Dor, thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to Cloud and Clear. Check the show notes for links to this week's topics. And don't forget to connect with us on Twitter @CloudandClear and our website, sada.com. Be sure to rate and review the show on your favorite podcast app.